Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Happy at Home series for April the 12th of 2022. My name is Alice Bull, and I run the membership group at scraphappy.org, and I'm so excited to do this series with you and be here with you today. It has been so much fun this month. Hasn't it been a ton of inspiration? I am really excited with how well things have been going and all of the fun things that we've explored. Now, yesterday we were looking at watercolor backgrounds and I had the best time. We looked at dry brushing. Well, not completely dry brushing. We looked at brushing onto regular paper. I kind of showed how that would work. I'll just show you. Like, this is the warp that I have. It won't be as bad. Like, I can bend it out of here a little bit, but it will warp a little bit when you're using regular paper. But I think it turned out pretty well. And so that was kind of fun. We also, let me pull them over here. We also made a full watercolor background on watercolor paper. And you can see, like, this is way less warped. Like, it is a little warped, but it will feel really flat. Scrappy Adam, hello. I see Misty and Gina and Donna, hello. So fun to see Adam here. He was one of our teachers in our last Scrap Smarter experience. Misty was one of our educators. She taught our make and take for this last one. She has taught a class for Scrap Smarter. I just feel really supported, you guys. So thanks for being here. So this was one of the watercolor backgrounds that I made, and that is super fun. And then I showed you the layout that I was going to put together with the no line watercolor that we played with on Friday. Now I'm going to tell you, I didn't quite get it all done. I ended up using some Nuvo drops, some of these Nuvo drops. And if you've ever played with Nuvo drops and you're like, they don't make nice little round circles, they don't look like little dots when I do them, they kind of look like a hot mess, then you're not using the right kind. Now, I'm going to tell you the best ones to use are the Nuvo Dream Drops. Now, the Dream Drops, they're iridescent, which makes them extra pretty, but they are also really good at making perfect little domes for when you're making your own enamel dots with those. I did something a little fun with this, and I'm going to show this to you here in just a second, and then we're going to dive into our topic of today, which is A sides and B sides of paper. I love paper, so I can't wait to get into this with you today. In fact, I have taught this as a class for the Scrap Smarter experience with my friend Amy from One Mommy Scrapping, and I'm gonna give you like the condensed version. And I'll tell you, I was the A side representative, which is like the busier, crazier side of paper. So definitely that is the side that I love the most, but for scrapbooking, we need both. So Diane, hello. Tisha says, I finally caught alive. And Gail says, hello. And Vicky, she says she already has a question about A side and B side. Feel free to ask away and we'll try to get to that today. But first I have to show you this watercolor paper because, oh my gosh. It is so beautiful. I have like towers of stuff around me. You can see I've got stuff lined up here. Adam says, B-sides, totally me. And A-sides. That's okay. You don't have to choose a favorite. I totally have, but we need it all. Okay, so let me switch the cameras because I have to show you how pretty this has come together so far. Not done. Totally didn't get it done. But there is a brand new podcast episode out this morning, which is the Scrap Happier podcast. And we just started a brand new series. In fact, it is a 10-piece series about scrapbooking yourself. So I told you yesterday when we kind of dived into some of the stuff near the end that it would be kind of familiar. Yeah, dive into that today. Go and take a listen. It's 10 minutes, guys. Like, my podcast episodes are pretty short, unless I have a guest, and then we just need a little more time to dig into everything. But yeah, go check out the Scrap Happier podcast. It is about scrapbooking yourself, and we start with the important stuff, the stuff that really means something. And so I would encourage you to listen to that. Okay. no further ado, I've teased you with this 3 times. Here we go. This is how it's turning out so far. Isn't that lovely? Isn't it lovely? Okay, it's so pretty. So we did the watercolor down at the bottom yesterday. We made all of the little leafy pieces on Friday. Well, okay, we made about a third of the leafy pieces on Friday, and then I had made some more. And then I've got my pictures lined up. Now, of course, I wrote my word delight down here. I'll tell you the secret. I hand wrote it on a piece of paper, and then I did like the thing we did back in kindergarten or like grade school, right? Where you take your pencil and you shade the whole backside and then you trace over it. So that's what I did to get my writing so I would kind of like it with my pencil, so you could see the faint pencil lines. And then I went in with my dream drops. Now, these aren't specifically marketed for writing with. They're a little imperfect, but it's a page with watercolor, guys. Like, imperfect is the thing. And I think it looks nice. Like, is it perfect? Can I obsess over the things that aren't perfect with it? Oh yeah, you betcha I could. I can go there with you. But I'm looking at this and it's so lovely. I have additional floral pieces that are here so that I can decorate around this, so that I'm still gonna save a little space to do some journaling on here. But right, so nice. Now here's why this turned out so good. Like, obviously, okay, so I had 3 of the big trailing pieces. There's 3 of them. They didn't quite cover the top. So what did I do? I took the extra pieces, like some of the leaves and some of the other floral pieces, and I layered those in here to give me more dimension, to fill in the gaps. Like, this is a gap right up here, but you would never know. Instead, it has like beautiful flowers and little berry pieces in the background. I used some of the extra flower pieces to pop them up and raise them up. And so you can see here, as I raise it, you can see that there's dimension just lifting some of these a little bit. Even the trailing pieces, while the top of them is glued down flat, I've lifted the little trailing pieces and put them under foam dots just to create that dimension on the page, because I think it's extra pretty when we do that. And then you'll see the same little Nuvo drops that I've used here to spell out my word. Misty says she loves using Nuvo drops in those kinds of ways. Yay! Yeah, and so you'll see I've added little tiny drops of shine, and you can see the iridescence on them. Oh my gosh, it is so lovely, and just that lovely little finishing touch for those little pieces. So I will get this page put together. I will get it done, but it just didn't happen last night. Thank you. Tisha says it's gorgeous. I am feeling that too, right? Don't you love it when you love your own stuff? It's like, yes, yes. Look at how bad this mat looks. But, you know, this is real life. I could get a beautiful mat and you could all think, oh my gosh, she has all the perfect things. But real life lives here. This is my old, you know, manky old mat that's been around for a million years. It's super stained. If I get something on this, I have absolutely no worries about that. I don't feel like I'm ruining something. It's already like that. And, you know, what is it? It's a mat to protect my desktop. So really? Isn't that okay in the first place? Okay, so there was a question. Vicky asked the super hard question. She says, how do you determine which is the A side and which is the B side? Very valid question. Now, I meant to have a pack of paper that I could just pull out here. Oh, here. I'm going to just pull one of my packs from the weekend. Okay, so let's have a look. This is some paper. I've used some of this already on a layout that I was doing on Scrapbook Live this past Saturday. The replay is on my YouTube channel if you want to see it. So this here is paper from Simple Stories and my little embellishments. Let's see if I can just slide those off here so that they're not all over. And let's just go through these and have a look to see what we can see. Anytime you have a big, bold pattern like this, that's probably your A side. I'm just gonna guess. However, that's a pretty bold pattern on this side too. In fact, that is so bold that I would say both of those are probably an A-side paper to me. Lots of times a company, when they display their products, they'll show you the front and then they'll show you just a corner of the pattern that's on the back. Often the one that's the pattern on the back will be your B side. So yeah, this here has a lot of plain space, but having that bold pattern, I would call that an A side. And then when we flip this over, that is like a wild pattern too. It is not neutral in any way, shape, or means. So this is, I would say this is two A sides. And papers can be like that. They can be both A sides, they can be both B sides, they can be an A side and a B side. You're really looking for the amount of pattern, the amount of busyness. Is this something that can be used as a neutral? So Adam says the barcode is usually on the B side often. So on this one, there's the barcode. It's on this side, which potentially could be called a B. This is not a B side, guys. It isn't. Like, it just isn't. Yeah, it frustrates me to no end when they only show a bit of the B side and not the whole thing, says Sophia. I know, and like for something like this, so we're looking at this, we got this beautiful gingham paper with this yellow, it's like so pretty. And we can see the barcode is on this side, but when we flip it over, it is this big busy pattern. So you see how this pattern and this pattern, they're related, right? They just have different color backgrounds. This is why I'm saying, if this one is what they're calling an A side, this side here, there's no way that's a B side, right? Like, there's just no way. So when we're looking at papers, it really comes down to how busy is it to you? How much does it already have going on it? So it's not like there's a rule. They might design it, they might call it those things, but like with this paper, this isn't a B side, and it's definitely an A side, and so is that. So there's no hard and fast rules. What we're going to talk about today is how you scrapbook with the papers and how they all work together. So that's really the key point of it. Hopefully this was a good demonstration of the kind of stuff that you actually see. I actually love the first one I pull out was like, well, that's actually two A sides, because that's the reality of the papers that we have. Okay. Yeah, sometimes sure it's just a plain repeated pattern, but I saw one today in a new collection that is clearly a cut apart on the B side, and you can't see it. Yeah, that's ridiculous. If it's a cut apart sheet, you need to see all the stuff that's on there. Now, what happens if you don't create balance? Because that's the really big part of what you want to create when you make a layout. What happens when you don't have balance? The page is overwhelming. There is nowhere for your eyes to rest. And just like everybody else, I've made those mistakes, and I have a great page to show you. It's really beautiful, but it's really overwhelming. So let's have a look. So it's pretty. I've got this gorgeous diagonal stripe, which I was in love with. I've got this gorgeous polka dot paper, which I was in love with. But putting all of this together, if anybody's going, oh my God, that's a lot, or you're going cross-eyed just looking at it right now, I get it. I look at this layout like, oh gosh, I was having a lot of fun. I really liked the colors of the paper, but is this a good way to use these busy papers, the busy colors? Is this good use of this? I really don't think so. And I am totally okay in saying that. I am totally okay in showing you, because I want you to see, like, why is it important to kind of consider how these work together? Because this busy stripe with this busy polka dot, and then trying to put my words over top of it, it is way too much. We got too much going on here. There is nowhere for your eyes to go, and just relax. It's a lot. I get it. And that's okay, because I can scrapbook other pages. This one, it says Canadian A, more like A+. And then I talk about poutine, which is Canadian food, which is hot fries, chips if you're from the UK, with beef gravy and cheese curds to melt on there. It is so good. Like so good. Yeah, so hot brown gravy, cheese curds, hot fries, yum. Anyways, I'm already drooling, and I'm like, I'm sure I just ate. I'm sure I just ate. It's all good. Okay, so looking at that page and seeing what's wrong, how do we make it right? Like, how do we make it right? So I've got a few tricks for you for using these kind of papers that are very dominant and very exciting and very fun. So the first thing that we're going to look at is using it as a subtle background. Ooh, subtle. Is that even an Alice thing? So here is I've got some examples that show you how I've used the busy background paper basically as a border or frame to set my layout on. So here is one, whose car is it anyway? And here, I'll just move it a little over. And whose car is it anyway? And you can see I loved this great, amazing pattern paper that I had, but it was a lot. Like, it was a lot. And I've done some, I think, package technique and splatter stuff on here, which I thought was fun, right? Like, they're hitting the ditch with the car, they're driving it crazy, they're packing it like insane home from Costco. But I was telling the story about this car, but look at how I've used this busy pattern paper. Like, it adds to this page, and yeah, it's mostly about my kids, it's fine, and my husband, but I can use flowers, that's totally okay. But you can see, like, do you really see flowers when you look at this? No, it's just kind of bringing this little color palette to the page and allowing me to build my page on top of it. So sometimes you end up covering up a whole bunch of that busy pattern paper because it's a lot, right? This pattern by itself, it was a lot. It doesn't have one on the back side, so I can't even show you what the A side or the B side would have been. It was a single-sided paper. Okay, so that's just one example of using it as a background. Here's another one that I had made here in February during our load challenge. And you can see this top paper, this blue, is definitely a B-side. It's very calm, it's very neutral, it's not in your face. I love that it has the gradient from the light blue down to the dark blue. I like the little grid lines on it. I think that was really fun. So it was a B-side that has some fun flair to it. But look at this crazy floral that I put in the background of this page. And we do get to have little peaks of it more than just the little edging around it, because we can see it through the holes of my little sequin pockets. So this whole page is a shaker, which I think is hilarious. I think it's like so fun. So the whole page is a shaker. Every single one of these is kind of like, I've gone around it with some foam tape so that the shaker has room for the sequins to kind of wiggle around and move. Some of them maybe not enough. But yeah, so the whole page is a shaker, but you can see the beautiful floral in the background, and then I've used elements from that same collection to decorate it up with the florals, right? So I think that that's really fun. Everybody's talking about poutine. I love it. I love seeing it, right? Oh my gosh. So this paper that is in the background, this busy floral A-side paper, this is the paper from the back, right? We've got a very monochromatic, lots of times B-side papers are monochromatic, and it has just a subtle wonky stripe. So just another example of a border page. And we've got more. So this one, same thing. We've got this great pattern paper with the diagonal stripe. And now I've confessed, diagonal stripe, one of my very favorite types of a stripe or pattern paper because I think they lend themselves so well to making them into a border for around a page. Like they're great on a page too, but oh my gosh, isn't that lovely? So I love them for that. And you can see that my other choices are a lot softer, a lot more neutral. So this yellow and white polka dot, this other spot paper, this orange with the little stripes in it, all of those are B-side papers. I even have a piece of cardstock in here, which, you know, you can't get more neutral than a piece of cardstock. But I think that because I've used this rainbow colored diagonal stripe, it has little polka dots on it too. I've pulled the colors, and that's one of the great things you can use that bold pattern for, is to pull the colors into your page. So I've picked 3 main colors to pull from here. Some of the aqua color that you can see in the stripes, some of the yellow that you can also see in the stripes, and some of the orange that you can also see in the stripes. So pulling a little bit of that, I've also used this blue that's in the stripes and a little bit more. So pulling all of those pieces into this page makes everything go together so well. That's one of the things about having a stripe. It's a good representation of your whole package of pattern paper that kind of all goes together. Yeah. Oh, that's really fancy. Mickey said the first time she had poutine, her friend made it from scratch. She's a chef, and it was oxtail poutine. Sounds delicious. Oh gosh, I even did stitching on here, you guys. That's amazing. I did not do hand stitching as a rule, but look at me doing something I'm not always into. But yeah, I think that's just one of the things. When you have the busy A-side patterns, they give you a lot of options for pulling into that, pulling the whole color palette of your kit together. This one here, I just used the paper as my background and I built everything on top of it. But with the frame that I did, the little light pink frame that I've done around the pictures, I've got some great vellum paper here to kind of put my journaling on. That's one of the things. When you're using busy pattern paper, your journaling needs a place. So journaling needs a place. It cannot hang out on top of this. You're never going to see it. It's going to look awful. You're going to regret it from the second you do it. So one of the things that I do often is bring a little bit of vellum or something so you can kind of keep the look of the pattern, but you can still read your journaling. We'll have a look at more examples of that here in a little while about using some vellum with it. But I really like it. Plus I've got 4, they're almost like 4x6 photos. They've been cut down just a little bit in height to be able to fit here, but I like it. I've used this really busy big fern leaf. We're looking at dinosaur fossils. I think that all fits together really nice. Lori says, it looks like I missed some great layouts. I need to go back and watch the beginning. Yeah, today we're talking all about A-side and B-side paper. So we are talking a lot about using that paper. This is another one where I've gone and I've created a border around here. Now I actually cut this border. It's cut down a little bit from a 12x12, and then I actually cut the center out as well. So this, and then I added some glitter. I've used this die cut that was fantastic. This one came with all the little pieces pre-cut, so I just had to glue them together. Way better, let me tell you, than having to cut out the little pieces. I don't have a lot of patience for that. So I think this is kind of fun. It's a very, very simple page. I've got my title, journaling, the fancy little die cut. This one's done, right? Little glitter glue, right? See, I've gone around the whole edge with the glitter glue. But that pattern paper is so gorgeous. But had I just covered the whole thing and I didn't cut the piece out from the center, or you could take a piece of the paper and layer it over the center. If I hadn't done that, it would be super overwhelming, because would you see my beautiful die cut? No, because it's not going to show up good on this paper, especially because this paper has white in the background. You take a white die cut, put it over this white background stuff, you're not going to see it at all, right? And so you're really trying to balance the what's getting the attention, how are you bringing the attention. So question, what kind of pen did you use on Vellum? There's a few that I will use. This one, I'm going to guess that it was either a felt tip pen or maybe even a Sharpie pen, right? Because there's Sharpie pens and stuff now. It very well could be that. And am I concerned about using that in my books? No, I just stopped worrying about that. Lori says, I love the A-side ideas. I'm a B-side scrapper. And I think that that's a common thing, right? It is a lot easier to work with those A-side paper or the B-side papers. They are definitely easier to work with. Here is one with papers that I actually made myself. So there's a video on my YouTube channel if you want to see this page come together. It's called Stretch Your Stamps. I did it in a collaboration with Shoe Puff Designs, with Shu-Wen, with Shoe Puff Designs, and we were talking about background stamps. And so I was using a bunch of different stamps. I stamped every paper here. Like, this was all custom created. But I did one with a big, bold pattern. I did one with a stripe. I did a little strip. I did a little crazy background using my Concord and Ninth turnabouts, which I'm obsessed with. Like, think they're brilliant. I did ombre stamping, or gradient stamping, I guess, on my title. I created this little polka dot floral background. Like, oh my gosh, it was so fun. So if you want to see this one come together, you can check out that video on the Stretch Your Stamps collaboration that I did on my channel. But look what I've done here. Journaling on a piece of vellum so that you can still see the pretty flowers underneath, but you can definitely read the journaling. I think it's really important to be able to do that. Yeah, very, very subtle little things on this one. Multi-step stamping, actually. I did multi-step stamping, which I love. Sue says a slick writer by American Crafts works on vellum. Yeah, and the other ones that I have that I use a fair bit, let me hold this up because these are on my favorites list, are the Copic Multiliners. So I will say I've pulled out Sharpies sometimes, but this is my go-to for reaching on vellum, and it is a pigment ink that is water and Copic proof. So these do not bleed at all. They are amazing. They come in different point sizes. So I have a 0.1, which is teeny tiny, a 0.3, which is probably this writing here because it's quite small, a 0.5, which is a little thicker, which that one on this Drumheller page would be either a 0.5 or even a 0.8, actually. So I definitely have the different tips. I think I have some brush tips. Honestly, these pens are amazing. I have them on my faves page, so if anybody wants to go and check that out, go to scraphappy.org/faves, FAVES, and that is one of the pens that I list there because they're amazing. This is the other pen that I list because it also does not bleed and run when I'm highlighting in my planner. It's a Sarasa mark-on pen from Zebra. Okay, so yeah, definitely fun, but it's about how much, right? How much of the great thing do you use? So in this one, this background paper with the roses is a lot. This green with those crazy stripes in all the directions is a lot, but how much am I using? And have I put the B-sides that are restful and relaxing around enough to give you that place to relax, to make it feel restful so it's not overwhelming? Because this page doesn't feel overwhelming, but we got like 2/3 of it is giant pattern. Okay, so in that question of how much, how much do you use of of an A side. Just let me write it down like that. This is a good example. I have picked white background paper, not very often. I do some white backgrounds, but you know, I don't do a ton of them. But this amazing pattern that's in the background, which I love, it is like watercolor with this beautiful quatrefoil and it's rainbow. It's just amazing. It's a lot of a background. So what have I done? A small amount of it, right? It's enough, but it's still also a controlled amount. Yeah, I love it. And yeah, why did I make my picture black and white? I don't do a ton of them. It's an overwhelming picture. It's a laundry room that was out of control. So I chose to go black and white with my photo because I think that that's one of our other choices, especially if you're printing at home. You can just go click and print your picture in black and white. And if you're doing a lot of color or you have a lot going on, choosing to make that decision can be really helpful for your design. Okay, let's continue with the idea of how much and toning it down. So we showed some vellum that helped to tone things down. Here is another example of that. This paper has great big maple leaves all over it. You can see it really easy through the vellum paper, right? But it also is not overwhelming, so I can read my title. I can get drawn into the different pictures, and my journaling is super easy to read because of this. And yeah, I made this one a couple years ago, and I just grabbed screen captures of all these different things, and I talk about how I love watching the Olympics and figure skating, and when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a ballerina on ice because I didn't know what a figure skater was called. And I'm actually a horrible skater, which is terrible. As a Canadian, I feel like I've let my country down, but it's true. I'm a terrible figure skater. But yeah, the vellum helps tone down that beautiful, beautiful paper. Same thing for this one. This background paper with all of the little stoves, the ovens and stoves, is beautiful paper, but it's a lot. Like there's different colors and patterns. They're not exactly lined up in perfect little rows. Like they kind of lined in rows this way, but not vertically. So there's a lot of action in there. And so I definitely needed to tone it down so that I could add my journaling. Now, can you add journaling on a piece of B-side paper instead of on vellum? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But I chose to go with the vellum so that I can still kind of see that background paper because I love being able to kind of get that dimension through there, but make it so that you can still see it. And so I've got a cute little flip out on there too. Yeah, super fun. Oh my gosh, I haven't looked at that page for a while. So question from Vicky. She says, has anyone here ever put vellum through an inkjet printer? Yes, you can put vellum through as long as you have the right vellum. The vellum has to be designed to go through an inkjet printer. So there is specific vellum that you can buy that will work. If you don't know and if it doesn't say, then you can like test it and see, but not all of it will work. Some of it will just pool on top. So that is a consideration. So this one here, I used a patterned vellum. It has the gold shine. Ooh, see the gold shine. And I'll tell you, like, it's almost not enough for these white letters, but I'm holding the page in my hand and it looks gorgeous. So you can see it as you're holding it, right? You can see those titles pretty good, but it's almost not enough. But just look how pretty that background paper is. That is a classic print, like giant print A-side paper. The B-side is pretty bold, actually. But when I look at this, I wanted to be able to see those lemons. And so using this vellum that was like a printed vellum, I actually used one of those specialty papers that I bought and I didn't just hoard it for once. So I think that that's a really fun way to go about this. And you'll notice I actually printed my journaling on my photo. And so it's kind of funny. And if you look closely, I'm talking about lemon pie, but that's a key lime. The little things, that we kind of slip into our page. Um, yeah, it's not great journaling. I've made 2 extremely horrible lemon meringue pies. The first didn't have enough water. The second wouldn't set. Now if I want pie, I buy it. So, it doesn't go into the details, but I think that's enough detail. And I tell you, this place makes amazing key lime pie. So good. Okay, so another thing that we can do when we're using our A-side papers and we want to use that bold pattern, but we don't want it to become overwhelming, is we can make it monochromatic. So monochromatic is a great way to bring different textures and very dynamic effects without it being like, oh, that's a lot. And lots of times monochromatic pages with patterns will be the B side. So this one is quite a bold pattern, I think, but it probably is technically the B side. But does it matter? Like, it's not how it matters, it's how it works. And I love this. This is my dad and his brother, and then actually this is my dad and his brother. I almost wish I had flopped the photo, but real life. One thing I will do occasionally, and I did on this one, my dad had a super distracting thing on his shirt. It was like the first thing you looked at when you looked at this picture. And I am not a Photoshop person, y'all. It's just not a skill that I have. So one thing that I will do is I will take the blemish tool that is available in my computer, just in the simple editing. I'll take the blemish tool and I will blend out things that are overwhelming, like designs on t-shirts sometimes, just to give me a neutral base so that the first thing you look at is not the emblem on his shirt, because that's not the point. So I just think that was kind of a thing. Okay, there we go. So let's dive into a few things that we can do when we want to, go a little bit stronger, kind of maximize that A-side paper a little bit more. One thing you can do, and this is one of the ones that I had made for my A-side, B-side class, was you can use that pattern, but break it up so that it's not your whole design, right? So I think that this top-bottom split design for this paper is a really great way to use that bold pattern. It's all of the little game pieces, right, which is super fun. Here we are playing games, and I've got some of this awesome rainbow stripe. I've got the bold title, but what did I put those against? I really think it's important to learn layering. Now, when I layer, it's usually bold, neutral, bold, neutral, bold, neutral. You barely ever want your bold and your bold to be buddies. Neutral and neutral are fine. They play nice. But if you think about your A-side paper, those really loud papers, as being the bullies of the playground, you kind of like let them do their own thing over there, right? Like, they are bossy, and you need them to kind of have some time by themselves. They're not good together. So here I've got this popcorn paper. It has little popcorn designs in the background. I've got this polka dot. Those are more like an A or a B side. They're kind of neutral. This is obviously a neutral. This one has little puzzle pieces in the background. It's a neutral. This blue one is also neutral. So really the only A side I have really used are these pieces and that rainbow stripe. But you'll notice my A side pieces, I've kept them apart from each other. Just so don't let them hang out together. You got to keep those little neutral pieces in between. I have another page here where I have used this same paper. So it's the same collection. So I just thought I would bring that out right now too. And you can see I've done similar things. So I've got this bold star paper. That's kind of my big one. Now you'll see here I do have my stripe next to my bold one. But with it being a stripe, stripes are a little different. Like, it has a lot of colors, which can make it look A-side, but a stripe is like, it plays both sides of that fence. So it's very, it's kind of like the mediator in between. So I do have them side by side, but it's not, but you'll see, like, even in the little squares that I have on here, all of those squares sitting on top of it are neutral, right? That's kind of where I wanted to go with that. On top of the stars, I've chose the red, which is also more neutral. So that's kind of fun. I think it's fun to see like two made with the same line of papers. And anything great that you love can be used in moderation. So I've got this great background pattern paper that I've used in strips down the sheet here, but it is a lot. Like, it is a pattern and a half. It's all just like, it looks like mixed media and paint and like mucked up stuff, and it's gorgeous. And I love the colors in it, and it lent itself really well to a page that had a fire, because I just thought the colors was like nature and fire. Yeah, a small amount of stripes, says Misty. Absolutely. Like, going back to the one that was all wrong, we got a lot of stripes happening here, and it's a lot, right? That's a lot. This one was like, it's too much. So a little can go a long way when you have something bold, which is what I've done here. And I think with this crazy pattern, you're almost like drawing your eyes in from both sides into that photo so that you check out what the girls are up to, and they're roasting hot dogs. So, having a wiener roast. Another way to use that pattern to draw your eye in is this one here that I have, and it is this wild floral pattern, and I've got it drawing. Now, had I put something right here, that would have been amazing. Right? Like, anytime you're drawing your eye towards something, there should be something in there to look at. This is the beginning of the journaling, so it kind of leads to that. But I tell you, like, it could be better. It just could be better. So we have my procrastination queen page, and you'll notice, like, that because that pattern is so strong, you don't need a lot of it for it to kind of really stand out. Yeah, April says, when there's a lot of pattern, you have to give the eye a place to rest. Absolutely. And that's also what I've done here. Now, this is a gorgeous paper from Simple Stories. It was their Simple Vintage Lemon Twist, I believe. I don't know if I wrote it on the back. I didn't for once. But with this paper here, I loved the colors. I loved the designs. It was just a different color palette than what I've got to work with very often. Like, I liked the aquas and the yellows with the blacks. It had lots of that blacks. And so bringing all of these patterns together, like these florals, these pieces here are really bold. But what did I do? Bold, neutral. This one's a neutral. This one's a bold. This one's a neutral. And that one's a bold. So one of the tricks that I have here is I've bookended on bold. I've got some bold in the middle, but anything else that you put in the middle, as long as you're not doing bold next to bold, is going to be okay. This is a rule you can break, and I'll show you that in a second. But as a general rule, if you're like worried about this, this is good. Bold and then neutrals, like put them side by side. So that's kind of fun. And then you'll notice, like, did I take this all the way to the edge? No, because what do? I give it a nice wide frame to give yourself a place to relax to. Like, it's calm. Yeah, I love the black with yellow. I know. I this collection, when I saw it, I'm like, oh. It's one of the ones that I'm like, oh, I love that. Okay, so bolds and neutrals. Let's talk. Bolds and neutrals. So we've got some candy cane stripe. It's pretty bold. We've got some little holly leaves. Pretty bold. Anything with type all over it, that's really bold, right? Like, writing is a strong thing. It draws your attention. Your eyes are going to try to read it anytime you have writing. So it becomes a bold pattern. So bold and neutral, and bold and neutral, and bold and kind of neutral. Is plaid neutral? Yeah, this one only has red and green and some stripes of white, so maybe, but it's a little bold. But because it's so different, and because the base colors are different, right? Like this one has white and this one is like all red in the background. It also can play beside each other. That's really important. It's like, can you put two pieces that have white beside each other? Imagine if I put the holly next to the words, they're not going to have enough definition. There's not enough space in between them for them to kind of sit nice together and look good. But having gone, and having a different pattern in between, that totally makes it work. So yeah, it's color. I think a plaid is very strong too. I know. I look at it as bold, and even here, it's bold. This is a different bold than this, like than those ones, right? Because of the base color. So, and yes, this is me. Total. Am I a fashionista or a fashion victim? I'll let you decide. Look at my cute little skirt with my blazer and my like poofy hat. They're not like a beret. It's like one of those poofy hats with the little brim. Oh my god. So funny. Grade 11, I think that year. How much color do we use? How much pattern? So I've gone with a neutral background, and I have about 1/3 of the page with pattern. If you're nervous about using those bold things, practice like this. 1/3 of the page. That's all. Yeah. So yeah, I think that the little design is awesome. It's super fun, but it definitely is bold. And here's the backside of that red one. This would be a lot. That's a lot of pattern. Like, it's a great pattern. It has small patterns, so that translates to doing different layers with it, but it's definitely something that's fairly bold too. How much do you need? How much do you this page is very colorful. It's very bright, very colorful. The background paper comes rainbow like that, so all the rainbow stripes are part of the background paper. But I've taken the accent colors, the accent patterns that are the big A-side bold patterns, and I've put them into the little pieces of these circles and filled them in. So the little buttons and a little plaid and the little pencil crayons, and there's splatters and stuff as well. And so this bold background it's a good crossover. It's pretty bold. You could look at it like, wow, that's an A-side, but it has just color, right? So it's not really filled with the stuff that makes it scream at you. I'm curious to see. Oh yeah, it's even like more neutral on the background. So they did design this as an A-side, but I know just looking at it, it's totally also, it's on that verge of being a B-side as well. It really just depends. And you can see by layering those A-side pieces on it, it lets those other pieces kind of have fun on the page, but it's not too much. I don't know, it's really fun. It's really fun. Diamond versus gingham. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I know, like when you have like a plaid that's like squared off versus a plaid that's on an angle. I know. How would you do double page? Like for something like this? Like honestly, any of this stuff works. So if we go back to this one here and you wanted to double page this, I would run this right across that whole page or reverse it and do one of them with your stripe at the bottom or do one of them with your stripe on the side. You could bookend it having stripes down both sides. It really just depends on what kind of works with your layout of your photos and stuff too. Okay, talking about how much. Now, I show you a lot of bright papers, right? I've showed you a lot that were really bright. Just looking to see. I think I had another little stack of papers somewhere. I've showed you a lot of really bright, but we can go more subtle and still follow the same rules. Like this paper is really soft and gentle, like a spring kind of palette, I guess. But when you look at this one, look at how many colors. If you're wondering, is this A side or B side? One tip to know whether it's A side or B side is count the colors. When you count more than 3, like you're probably leaning towards an A side paper. So, yeah, that's a really good tip, actually. A side, how many colors? If there's more than 3 plus, you're probably looking at an A side. Generally, your B sides will have 1, 2, maybe 3 colors, but they tend to be pretty neutral. They just kind of stay in that monochromatic. So this green has little bits of white. This one with the plummy color has slightly darker plummy color on it. But then this one here has a lot. So what did I do? I offset it with this nice frame and made sure that when I set my photos onto there, they're matted. One thing you don't want to do is lose your pictures on the busy backgrounds. Okay, so I see I have to talk a little faster because I have a whole stack that I still want to show you guys. Big, bold, bright, colorful background. I stamped this background and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of color, but is it too much? I've got my photos, I've got my embellishments, and then I've got this to open up so I could add extra photos, right? Really fun to have lots of photos on the page. But I think that big bold background, because the rest of it is quite simple, is good. Here's another. I've chose to use my B side as my base to my page because I have all of these colors in this color wheel kind of design on this page. So what did I use? When I matted my photo, I picked a neutral. When I matted this whole row of photos, I picked a neutral. So it's finding that kind of balance. Okay, one more pile. We're gonna have to go a little faster, but I'll just point out like what I've done to make these work. Right, here's a really fun design, and we've got bold pattern, and actually I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I would have preferred to put this further away, but I've created a little bit of balance by having these pink ones here. I don't know, it works. This isn't my favorite color palette, so I struggle with this one at all because I'm not a fall colors girl. I used to be, but it's just not my thing. I want more bright. I'm way more this than this when it comes to color palettes. So I don't mind that they're okay, that they're that close, but I do feel that this and this are too close together because they're both such big, bold patterns. The writing is a big, bold pattern. I wish that it had something more neutral in between them. So just note to self for future pages. And what I was saying to you earlier about writing. Writing is an A side paper. When you have paper that has lots of writing over it, it's generally an A side. You can get those monochromatic ones where they kind of blend to the background, This is not an example of that. And so I let the words work for me. I highlighted the ones that I wanted to draw your attention to, and then I slipped my photos under it to kind of bring that all together a little bit more. Here is another one, big bold pattern, and the rest of it is a lot more simpler. It's another color palette that I don't particularly love, but I think all in all it's kind of fun. The page is fun because it has all of the little details with the little frilly bits in there, the fringe paper. Scrap happy sketch. I know, I've done a few. You'll definitely see scrap happy sketches in here. Fun one, crazy stripe background. This one, I stamped this so it's a little more neutral, but then I have it all separated by a white mat before I bring it into the polka dot paper. It's okay. I think the words are almost a little hard to read. Almost. Like, it's okay. Almost a little hard. You want to use a lot of different patterns. Piecing together something like this can be great. Now you'll notice that the biggest, boldest patterns are generally not side by side on mine because they just don't work as well side by side. So they can be close. They can be close, but when we're looking at the boldest patterns, it's not always the greatest to have them side by side. In fact, if you're doing a page like this, I would say do like 1/3 bold pattern and 2/3 like your neutral subtle patterns, or even 1/4 to 3/4, just to try to bring those together so that it's not overwhelming. Too many of the big pieces, of the pieces that sit together close like this, can be too much. It does matter though, the background colors of them, right? The background colors, that again plays into how close they can be together. This one has the blue, this one has like the white in the background, and that lets them be a little closer together without being overwhelming. Sometimes you're just working with the bold pattern paper as it comes. This paper came with the polka dots, with all of the stuff. And so I think sometimes you just have these amazing papers. This was a Vicky Boutin paper, and I just worked with it. And obviously everything's coming to the center, but I don't especially prefer to make center focus layouts. So I do have it offset with my words coming a little bit more into the center as well. Yeah, and then, oh yeah, Nuvo drops on there. And journaling, yep, tucked in there. That's good. That means I'm done. That's awesome. Sometimes I find when I'm like, oh, I didn't do my journaling. Whoops. Working with the pattern papers when they're wild and crazy. Oh, it's really funny because I made this a while back, and I've since discovered I'm not an ENTJ, I'm an ESTJ. There we go. The other ones are right, but yeah, but working with the pattern paper, what did I put? My personalities, I put all of that right to the center with all of that. I made myself black and white again because the paper is so crazy and wild. So it's working with the paper, finding a dark enough spot so I could add my words onto it so that they would show up good. This floral is pretty wild and crazy. So what do we have? Nice neutral pieces to accent it, right? So I like that design. Should do that one some more. Here's another design. Big, 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 bold pattern in the background. All of those fun hearts and all the colors and all of the stuff. And then I've got the chevron with the arrow pointing. And so we've got neutral. And then we've set ourselves a spot for our photo to make it really calm, right? It's calm in a way that, you know, gold glitter is calm. But I think that works, right? It's not too much busy. It's all about creating that balance. Here's another one, lots of background with, you know, vellum used on there to tone it down, keeping it pretty neutral color palettes. These were leftover pieces from that paper that I had stamped before. So, and then with adding on this, this one pattern there. Let's see here, another big floral paper with a diagonal stripe backgrounds. And this floral could be like big and overwhelming, but you know, I've balanced it with a nice big piece for your title. I've balanced it with a nice pale white section so you can really see the earrings that I'm wearing all the time with my pictures. This is one where I was really testing my limits, I feel. I've gone with a fairly neutral background. This here could be kind of neutral, but it's with the white, it gives it a lot more power. So this could look like a B side, but I really felt like it was an A side with the white, right? It kind of pops. But this also, the stripes, they have a lot of power. And so have I layered enough between neutral and solid and stuff like that? Maybe. Close, but it's a lot. It's a kid page. You know, it's a good place to push your limits on a kid page. There's another one. It's a lot, right? I've got the little baby polka dots everywhere. And then I chose to use the stripes. But I've layered lots of things with white. So I've got layers of white in between everything. And then all of these great big flowers. You know, kind of fun. I'm saving that one to show you in a second. This is one of the ones from the class. And I have used 2 A-side papers on this. Now, I always like when you do a diagonal layout like this, if one side is neutral and the other side is a bold pattern, that tends to work the best. Plus, it gives you places to put your titles, to put your words when you have some neutral ground. You'll see I covered up a lot of this floral with my photo. So if this part was a little more neutral, it would have been a little easier to work with. But I kind of looked at it like random polka dot paper. So it was kind of like, it doesn't have a ton of color, but it has a lot of color. Oh, is it freezing up? I'm so sorry. My stuff says it should be working, so I never know this internet stuff. Here's another one, playing with all the colors because it's a kid page, right? So diagonal stripes, all the colored polka dots, but then neutral, neutral, neutral. All the neutrals to tie it in together. And this one has really busy backgrounds. This background paper with the quatrefoils and they're kind of faded and stuff. It looks soft, but it's a really busy pattern. So, you know, I've got my space here. In fact, the vellum alone over top of it was not enough to keep it neutral enough. So I had to add in some white paper underneath to really give myself a clear enough space to read my journaling. And then underneath this, I picked this pattern because while it has a lot of pattern, it also has that kind of neutral color. And I made sure that they're all the same so that it's less overwhelming. The background is already a lot. And so I was able to hide more pictures and different pieces underneath there. And here we have another one. This one is going back to that die. It's a lot of bold, but where did I cover things up? Over all the bold stuff, and I left the neutral part for my journaling. Alice, you make using bold patterns so easy. I'm a white t-shirt and sneaker girl. I love the bold patterns. I love wearing them too, actually. Like here I am today. Oh my gosh, look at my cute little curled hair. Isn't that adorable? My mom, so cute. She would always do that to me. And this one here I showed during the class that I taught, the A-side, B-side class with Amy, and definitely bold pattern all over the background. What did I do? Neutral, neutral, and then I brought a little bit of stripe with the color. But I messed up some of the little florals by cutting into them and popping them up with some pop dots. Oh my gosh, that's like one of my favorite things. I just love this paper. That's Paige Evans paper. Ooh. And finally, here is the last one that I brought out to show you. And this one here, those letters keep popping in. This one is a lot of pattern, right? It is a lot of pattern. It is a lot of bold pattern. It is so much going on. But look what I've done again. I've got my pattern at the top and my pattern at the bottom. That kind of grounds your page. So it's like your eyes know where to start and end. If I use a different pattern at the bottom, it actually looks a little strange. It's like, oh, is this part of the same thing? Where does this keep going to? Almost like, it's not like you can't tell, but it doesn't feel quite right to me. And so pattern, and then we've got some polka dots and stripes and polka dots and rainbows, and you'll notice in between all of the crazy things, neutral, 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 and then I've got my neutral as my base. So I'm hoping that between all of this stuff, like how many layouts have we looked at today? A lot. a lot. I'm hoping that this has helped you look at your stuff. Look at your papers that you have in your collection, the ones that you see them and you buy them and you're like, oh my gosh, this paper is amazing. And then you sit down with it and you're like, what am I going to do with that? Because it's so overwhelming and it's just so much. There is so much action going on in this paper. How do I make space for my scrapbook? Like, how do I make space for my story? How do I make space for my photos and not lose it in all of that busy pattern? And I hope that by showing you that balance between that A side and the B side paper, that you're kind of coming through and really seeing by using that big bold pattern, when you layer in all of those neutrals, they give you that home for your photo, for your story, for your titles. Like you said, that page is perfection. Are you talking about this one? I seriously love this page. It's like, it's so beautiful to me. It's so beautiful. And I love it. But like, I look at a lot of these pages